It's called The Dawgs with Chancey and Chee, and we are just changing the game tonight. Just all new things. Everything's new. Everything about this is new. And so as we are also recording tonight our video. So who knows what is going to transpire here. So we're testing.
We've actually already done. We've already done this intro before, and then Patrick had to tend to the wife and the dogs and everything like that. Which hey, that's life.
Literally 30 seconds into this.
Yeah, we 30 seconds or so. But what we didn't do whenever we were recording the first time, Patrick, we mentioned the video thing, but we gotta promote the YouTube channel. Search us, Calling the Dawgs, just like it is on the podcast on the YouTube channel. We have one other recording from what was that 2 years ago? Vanderbilt? No, it was last year, right? No,
it had to be a year before.
Yeah. It was. So is this going to record? Like, I got messages that are popping up. Is it going to record those too?
Who knows?
Okay. Here we go. But anyway, Calling the Dawgs on YouTube. Take a search it up a little bit. But I am I'm a little worried about this whole YouTube this video thing, because I'm not very good at focusing on the iPad while it's recording. But I'm gonna be better.
We're gonna learn about this together. We have a lot of topics to go over, which is kind of crazy. Last episode was our pre-draft episode, and so if you've been following anything, then you know that there's a lot that has transpired really across the college football landscape. There's been a few things regarding transfer portal and things like that are pretty groundbreaking and are going to change how everything happens here. And so anyway, we just got a good bit to cover. But before we do that, we do need to recap the NFL draft. And so we just quickly wanted to touch on it and really just give our grade as to how we thought the Dawgs performed, because we actually, a couple of our predictions did come true. We actually did hit the nail on the head with some. But then we definitely
we were like half and half. Yeah, we were like half and half. There was some that we just whipped hard. We were talking about Monty. We whipped hard on. He's the first one that came to mind. I think Ben Cleveland we hit pretty good. I don't know if anybody predicted that Eric Stokes was going to be a first rounder. Pumped, man. I mean, that was awesome. I think he is the epitome of what we expect Kirby Smart to do with talent. I mean, even if it's a 3-star guy coming out of the high school, turning him into a first rounder. Same thing with DeAndre Baker. And of course, DeAndre Baker committed under Rick. But yeah, I mean, things like that. I mean, I expect to see more of that as we progress into the Kirby era.
Well, so go ahead and tell me then what's your grade? If you had to give it a letter grade, what was your grade for this draft?
I would say probably a B plus, and the only reason it's not an A minus or so or in that range is I mean, we didn't. So this is the most guys that we've had in the first 3 rounds forever. But it's also, I mean, it was a record breaking year for Georgia in period. I mean, it was the most draft picks we ever had. We had 9, which was awesome because Mark Webb was drafted late in the last round. I mean, he was close to being, Mr. Irrelevant, and just like old Tay Crowder the year before. And no, it's pretty awesome to see that. I mean, we've got guys like Mark Webb, who is even, pretty much our backup cornerback, safety. He played some star. I mean, he was just kind of a guy that, rotated around a pretty good bit, and now he's he's sorry, I got messages popping up and all that, but yeah, he's a guy that's going to be forever, will be a draftee. So anyway, no, I would give it a B plus. I mean, I think we had a ton of guys. We had 6 guys in the first 3 go in the first 3 rounds, which I think is probably what you want to see more of. I mean, the Alabamas of the world, the Ohio States of the world. They're getting guys. They're getting 6, 7, 8, 9 guys in those first 2 or 2.5 rounds, and that's what you want to see more of. You want to tip the scales a little bit more towards the front of the draft, which we definitely did this year. So I mean, we're seeing an improvement. I think year to year with Kirby at the helm.
Well, and I actually, my gut, I kind of was leaning more towards an A minus just because of, I think we really outperformed. I think we really, from what you were looking at what the draft, everybody was thinking about prospect wise and kind of grading us and how we were going to do in the draft. And even if you look at how we were talking before the game, there's a lot of guys that I did not have 9 guys getting drafted. And so especially that many in the first 3 rounds. I mean, Stokes going where he did is crazy. But then seeing Tyson Campbell going right after that, I mean, was that kind of that was he's got the talent, and we talked about it. We said I feel like somebody's going to be able to see how talented he is, even though he didn't have a huge. I mean, he had a lot of film on him and things like that. But Tyson and Aziz, I just thought it was a great. I just was felt so good at how we performed overall. We just outperformed what I had expected. I mean, I feel like everybody had expected. So to me, it was more. I give such a high grade because the guys just they put the work in. They outperformed, and that just shows too, like you said with Kirby. I mean, they know what the talent that he develops. They know what he's producing, and so which kind of leads into our conversation we're going to have here in a little bit. I mean, you've got these top 5 programs. It's about the top 5 programs in the country are now just turning into NFL jumping. I mean, they're minor league teams for the NFL, and they're just jumping off points.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, we've been working up. I mean, we were so top heavy with talent a few years ago whenever we had the 2017 and 2018 teams, and then we had such a mass exodus. 2019, I mean, we didn't really stand a chance to make a difference, and then 2020 was what it was. I mean, 2019 I think was somewhat of a turning point because we got past that 2018 debacle in the Sugar Bowl. And the 2019 season was just a little bit of a letdown. Had a couple of big wins that year. You know, we beat Notre Dame at Sanford, amazing game. We beat Florida, but you know, it's just one of those things that we got to the SEC championship, and we played a LSU team that it was the team of destiny that year. Did not stand a chance. And then you got 2020, which was nobody expected that season to. I mean, most people didn't even expect that season to even happen last year. And then all of a sudden, you know, we get halfway through the year and we've got a loss to Alabama that, you know, and we don't know who our quarterback is. We're working with a third string, fourth string guy. So what's the situation last year? And then, so we're coming in this year, we're coming out of COVID. Everything is pointing towards, I mean, and you know, you've probably seen that they expect 100% capacity as of right now. 100% capacity is planned on in Sanford Stadium, which is great. And that's another thing that we didn't even write down. But I mean, that's a big thing. And also, North Carolina has even said that you know, they are allowing for 100% capacity at sporting events as a state, but I believe I don't know who is in charge of the Duke's Mayonnaise Bowl, like beginning of the season bash or whatever the hell it is. But whoever is the spokesperson for that and for the Carolina Panthers Stadium said that they intend to have 100% capacity, which is great. So anyway, it's like, okay, last year was probably the best team top to bottom that we've had potentially in the Kirby era, but we just didn't know who the quarterback was. Newman spurned us. JT was not ready until, well, he came on and then he, you know, just tore it up. So we expect him to be the leader that he is this year. And then we have an incredible talent of wide receiver, incredibly talented wide receiver core. And so what is this year going to be like compared to a 2017 team? And I think it's going to be probably going to be the most comparable team that we've had to that point, and that team made it to the national championship. So I may be getting ahead of myself here. I mean, I don't even know what you prompted me to say that, but We're there.
That was beautiful. Yeah, I really do. You just mentioned a wide receiver core that is incredibly talented and getting more and more talented by the day at this point. I mean,
Right.
it's crazy. And I think you're exactly right in kind of that analysis. We what was that?
Whoops.
Oh,
Sounds, brought to you by High Noon. I'm not a seltzer guy, but these are pretty darn good. So
High Noons are good. High Noons are good. So you guys know Chee is he's in the zone here. Yeah, I think
one day
we're right. There's the next 3 years to me are just going to be nuts in terms of how this is all going to shake out, because you're right. The timing has been off for us, and everything that we're about to talk about now, this is like the way we have been using the transfer portal and things like that. We're the freaking Tampa Bay Bucks last year, just trading for everything to get the guy for at least just one season, which is what we're gunning for. I mean, we are every spot we had, because we've had last podcast, we were talking about the gaps that we had, especially in the secondary, the gaps that we were, the concerns in with Pickens being gone and all this kind of stuff. That's almost all out the window. I mean, everything that we talked about last time, especially in those areas, that's all gone. And so the talent that we are just stacked across the board. And so it's going to be interesting to see. Heck, I don't even know what the draft's going to look like for us next year. There's all kinds of stuff going on, man.
The crazy thing is, we talked about last year and the defense that we were going to have and all the returning starters and everything like that, which we did have a nasty defense last year. And then you go and, I mean, but the thing is, you can have as nasty of a defense as you want these days, but you are not going to beat the Alabama offenses. You're not going to beat okay, I'm not going to give Florida that much credit. That was like a once in a lifetime offense for them, and they're going to go back to doo-doo this year. And I cannot wait. Let's just take a second, Patrick. I don't know if you've seen this hype around their quarterback, Mr. Emory Jones down there, who's from the state of Georgia. It's unbelievable how they're talking about that. They're talking about him like he did something over the past 2 years to make him actually earn a little bit of a reputation and a little bit of a hype, because he hasn't done anything. He's just an athlete that's playing quarterback. And I mean, he doesn't have that big of an arm. He's somewhat accurate, but he came in and he read the read option every time he came in, Patrick. How are they hyping this guy up to be a top 3 quarterback in the SEC this year? That's what I want to know.
They just gave Dan Mullen an extension into like 2027. I mean, these people. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, they have got such a culture thing going on down there that, I mean, they're just they wanted to believe so hard that they're back and like they're in the Tebow Urban era again. And that's just what they're clamoring for. And so I think they're just, but I mean, we've done that too. We get hyped up about something and we're living in la la land, but they are, I mean, we haven't done anything like that.
We have a little bit more credit to do something like that.
Oh, right now, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now the way they're acting is ridiculous. And yeah, Emory Jones has done absolutely nothing. So I'm actually excited. I'm excited about the hype. I'm a part of the hype. Just getting super pumped about him.
Patrick's over here creating burner Twitter accounts so that he can promote to Florida. He's like, yes, we are going to be the best team. Here's the deal.
Some bots set up.
The thing is, you could never do something like that because you could never even act like you support that team.
No.
Which,
not even a joke.
You cut your.
I get arrested.
You tweeted something that was pro Florida Gator.
I'd get arrested with what I'd be tweeting at these people. So we're gonna avoid that. But yeah, I think the big topic and the big reason why we wanted to get together this week is there's been such movement around the transfer portal. and a lot of conversations. And so we talked about Tyke Smith last time, and that news was pretty fresh, and that news was coming about. Big pickup. I mean, I don't think the guy is like first round or anything, but the guy's a great talent. He brought experience when we don't have any experience back there. And so it was good, an exciting thing to see. So the transfer portal, I mean, we've all under Kirby, we have always been able to do, we've done some serious damage when it comes to the transfer portal. I mean, you look over his time with us, you got a guy like Murray Smith. You look at Lawrence Cager. There's a lot of names that pop up that Kirby has been able to bring guys in that have. And last year, obviously, you got JT Daniels, and you got all these big names that are making an impact from the get. This new rule around the transfer portal, it just puts all of that on steroids. Just
No, it really does.
To a whole nother dimension. If you don't know about the rule, especially it's within the SEC, especially. After you can transfer interconference and play immediately. And so the guy that we've been talking about, Arik Gilbert, and we didn't know what was going to happen. Arik plays LSU, transfers to us, he's playing. Like there's no like waiting around for a decision and you got to play politics and things like that. The boy's playing.
Yeah. Which
I mean,
that whole situation. I mean, so first of all, Arik is, I mean, you were talking about, I mean, he is not going to be playing tight end, which I think is awesome because, I mean, we don't need him to play tight end. We got Brock Bowers, we got Darnell Washington. Excuse me, he's too athletic to be playing tight end. Put him in the receiver spot. I don't know where exactly he's going to go, but he's going to be playing receiver. So, I mean, all of a sudden we go from like, okay, George Pickens, which I don't know if you saw this, but he is posting, you know, they had like picture day or like video, you know, the intros and stuff like that they do on the Jumbotron. They were filming those today. So he was like dressed out in his uniform and all this. I mean, a lot of people I think are hesitant to say that he's going to come back and play for the Dogs this year. And I have no reason to really think that. Aside from him, obviously he's a premier talent, but I mean, I think he is going to come back and play if at all possible. But anyway, that is all to say. I mean, Arik is going to be coming in, going to be immediately eligible at a spot where we thought not a few weeks ago that like, wow, we don't exactly have a ton of receivers because Burton went down too. And so everybody was like, all right, we got Burton down. Pickens is out potentially, you know, for half the season. Who knows what his situation is going to be. How many receivers do we actually have these days? I mean, Dominique's he's healing up. Marcus Rosemy-Jackson is going to be healing up. And then also Rosemy's, you see that video of him like in the corner of the end zone? This is like 3 or 4 weeks ago. And he's like catching balls in the corner of the end zone. He's like, man, I'm back. So anyway, I just wanted to point out that it's like this guy's going to be coming in. He's already a freak athlete. And at a position that we thought but like a month ago went from being a huge strength to potentially a weakness to back to being one of the most dangerous wide receiver corps in the country. So I'm pretty damn pumped about it.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a game changer for us. I mean, I don't think Eric's I don't think he's a George Pickens by any means, but he's just a whole different animal. I mean, he's just a whole different kind of player. But I am pumped about because we've got Smith now, we've got Jermaine, we've got deep threats, we've got our tight end situation. I mean, the problem is we can throw it to a different person every down to just incredible playmakers. Dom's going to be back. I mean, we got so much going on in the receiving department, and now we've got a quarterback that can take advantage of that. And so I think it's just a part of the offense that I just don't think we haven't seen that before at Georgia. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're going to walk into an offense next year, y'all, that we don't know we're not going to know what to do. I mean, because you look at Monken's going to have all the pieces he wants. We got running backs all over the place. Milton's going to have a hell of a year. We got Cook coming back. We got Zamir coming back. We got we got all this stuff.
How do you give everybody touches? Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. And so for us, I'm just so interested to see what kind of offense we're going to run and how we're going to be using these guys, because we've just got weapons all over the place. And the thing is too, is our guys are so versatile. So the way that we can use them, like Eric can do anything. I mean, in terms of he can line up all over the place. And then you've got freaking Darnell, who is just, we just saw a glimpse of what this man is capable of. And then you've got all of our receivers across the board. I mean, Smith, we've seen he's a threat deep ball every time. I mean, the guy is so fast. And so we've got a plethora of weapons on the offensive side. So I think for us now, and we hopefully have a guy that can get it to him. Everything we hear about JT is pretty special about how he's preparing for this season. I mean, I think we're getting, the more information we get about him, the more excited I get, and so I'm pretty pumped about it across the board. Now, I think offensive line, we'll get to some of that. There is some questions there, but God, we can just dump the ball as quick as possible. We've got all these guys to throw it to, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole yet, because we've got other guys in the transfer portal that we got to talk about. But so let's see. Out of the guys that we have right now, about the same day that we had Gilbert, we heard about the Gilbert news. Darion Kendrick, DB from Clemson. So this one, there's some debate as to which is the bigger get in this situation between Kendrick and Gilbert.
He had some issue. I mean, of course, every other fan base besides Georgia is saying, "Oh, well, Arik's, had some issues with grades," which is, I think, true. And I'll say this: I think that Kirby would not have taken him in this situation if he didn't think that he was going to be able to play this year. But then you have Darion Kendrick. The thing about him is he had a misdemeanor charge for possession of firearm, I believe, or something along those lines, and there's expectations that it's going to be dismissed. So it's one of those things that, due to the one-time transfer rule that the NCAA instated, I think that was earlier this year, he should be able to come in, and as long as that charge is dismissed, which I think, like I said, they expect it to, as long as that charge is dismissed, he should be able to come in and be able to play this year immediately. And I think a lot of people could expect him to contribute. So, I mean, Darion Kendrick, who he played, I think I read earlier, he played in like 25 games. Like, he's got good experience, which is a little bit different. Arik is not exactly seasoned. And then Darion's got some good experience. Tyke Smith's got some good experience. The other guy, that Brandon Turnage, cornerback, which I know we'll get to here in a second, he doesn't exactly have that much experience. So it's the Kendrick guy. I think I agree with you, what you were talking about a second ago. It could be just as impactful for our team right now. It's just a valuable asset as Gilbert is on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, because you also have to think, who are we playing in the first game of the season at your favorite named game, the Duke Mayonnaise Bowl? I think, okay, quick aside, I just want to say how excited I am that for the next 3 months, you have to talk about mayonnaise a lot leading up to this game, because of your deep-rooted somewhere fear and hatred of the condiment mayonnaise.
It's not even, it's a disdain, but it's also even more than that. It's like the best word to describe it is loathe. I think that's just a good word. I loathe mayonnaise. And it may be irrational, and I may be a hypocrite. I love pimento cheese. It's great. But yes, so we got the Duke's mayonnaise. I mean, it's such bull crap. Like the one in Atlanta gets the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. We get the Duke's mayonnaise. Just all I can think about is, like, what do you get for the trophy? Because I mean, surely there's going to be some sort of trophy, which is stupid because it's the first game of the season. But like, what do you get for the trophy? Is it gonna have like a glob of mayonnaise in this bowl? I mean, that's just yeah. I'm close to dropping the F-bomb on our podcast right now because it's so disgusting to think about.
Well, I'm just excited that this is phase one of many leading up to the season opener that you're going to have to deal with this. But anyway, we'll have more time to talk about that. But with Kendrick, obviously playing at Clemson and being a pretty integral part of that team and having a ton of play, like you just talked about how many games he had a lot of experience, been there for a while. Just his presence. I mean, he knows so much about that team. He knows, and then apparently he played a little bit. He either started out at wide receiver or did a little bit in that position. So knows a little bit going both ways about the offense, but knows about the team, knows where areas to exploit. And that only goes so far because you obviously got to go out and perform, and you got a whole new team and things like that for both sides of the ball. But at the same time, if you're talking about from an experience perspective, we're going into a game against going to be possibly the number one team in the country in Clemson, and us being somewhere in the top 5. And our biggest area of weakness was our defensive backs. And immediately we have filled all of those, like we have filled that spot. And then if Turnage comes back too, I mean, God, we have to remember we still are stacked, like talent wise. We just didn't have a lot of experience back there, which is what we have to have going into this game.
We don't have a ton of cornerbacks because, I mean, we still have guys like, I mean, we lost to Vaughn Wilson last year. He went to UCF. Tyreek Stevenson decided to go to Miami. So, I mean, regardless, I mean, both of those guys could play cornerback. They were not safeties. They could play star or cornerback, but they were going to be the guys that were going to be potentially coming in on a spell situation for the most part. I mean, Tyreek may have started. Tyreek probably would have started, actually. But at the same time, I mean, you've got talent coming in. You've still got Nyland Green coming in. But I don't in this team that's a veteran-laden team, I need a guy that's going to be able to come in and feel comfortable immediately. Like the talent gap, you can make up. That's why these guys come in. And I'm not. I mean, unless the guy is playing in a position that is like cornerback's not a position I want a freshman to play in. Cornerback, quarterback, defensive end, those guys, left tackle. You don't want a true freshman playing in that situation. But if obviously talent sometimes can overcome in like a safety, middle linebacker, running back, you can certainly have a true freshman. But there's certain positions you don't want inexperience in at all. And if you can bring in a guy in who's at least, I mean, he doesn't have to have, as many as Darion has, but I mean, if he has, 5-10 games under his belt or a full season or something along those lines, that's all you really need. But I just don't like, thinking about Nyland Green, I'm sure he's just as talented as Kendrick is, but if not more, but he's not going to be, I mean, I am pulling for Kendrick at least to get in that store or potentially in that cornerback rotation.
Well, and I really feel that, I mean, Kirby recruited him in for this game. I mean, that was the goal here. I mean, I think Kirby feels good. Exactly. I mean, legitimately, that's why he, like I said, he's a good player. He's not going to change the world in terms of his talent, but you said it, a guy who can literally go in on the first game and contribute because he knows the team you're playing. I mean, he lined up against them every day in practice. And so he's going to feel comfortable going. He's in the big game environments. He's played in playoff games. He's played in those situations. So, I mean, that cannot go, that can't be stated enough what just being there, having been there means. And especially in that game, because our first game of the season is a playoff game. I mean, it is a playoff atmosphere. First game of the season at the Duke Mayonnaise Bowl.
You're gonna say that.
But it's huge. I mean, and Kirby, like I said, Kirby got him for this game, and I think he'll be able to contribute down the line for the entire year if he can stay healthy. But he had him for this game, and that was the intent.
Yeah, it's gonna be it's going to be interesting how it all turns out, because we do, like, you're right though. We are bringing in talent, like, we expect Kirby to do every year, but we've got guys that, I mean, we're losing so much of these guys that are actually meant to be groomed in these kind of situations. Last year was kind of their grooming year, the Tyreeks of the world. And, it really does put you in a spot whenever those guys decide to leave, which is their decision. I mean, he's Tyreek's a Miami guy, and so is Vaughn. But they wanted to go home, and I understand that. It makes sense for whatever makes sense for them. But at the same time, it's like, man, we got to figure out something. And Kirby is so good. His management of a team is incredible. I mean, people have said stuff about his, how his coaching decisions in big games and things like that. But you cannot tell me that Kirby Smart is not an incredible, game man or team manager. Five. How far are we in? 5 years into his career? This is the 6th year, right? Am I wrong there?
15,
16, 17.
So this,
18,
yeah,
19,
this be
20. It'd be
Yeah,
6th
so-
year. Yeah.
yeah, 6 year.
I did some quick math on my hand there. So
Our
anyway,
YouTube,
also,
our YouTube watchers will be able to watch it in real time.
yeah, I really gotta be a little bit more aware of that. Brought to you by High Noon.
There we go.
The line
There we
is
go.
really good, by the way. But anyway, I wanted to bring this up. I don't know if you noticed this, or if you saw this, but Darion Kendrick actually went to the same high school that Jadeveon Clowney went to. I saw South Point, and I was like, that looks familiar. And of course, whenever Jadeveon was coming out, like, he was the number one overall recruit, and then obviously became the number one overall pick in the NFL draft. But he was such a freak. Everybody knew where he went to high school. It was like South Point, and it was long enough ago. I was like, man, I had to look it up. But yeah, Jadeveon and Darion went to the same high school. So who else? Let's turn over to Turnage situation. So we talked about Tyke, I think, in fast. We've kind of already hit on him. I think Darion, Arik, and Tyke are already on campus, but the Turnage situation is a defensive back from Alabama. He's not. There's potential that he may not be coming, right?
Correct. So there's conversation. The talk around town is that he's not actually going to transfer to us, and that he's going to do. I guess I'm not exactly sure where he's going to end up going, but there's been a lot of talk, and then all of a sudden it just kind of all started hitting, like it hit all the board message boards and things like that Turnage wasn't going to play, and you're hearing rumors and stuff like that. So everybody's kind of getting in the mode that Turnage isn't going to go or isn't going to come to us, which you're thinking, does the Kendrick information have anything to do with that? So does having Kendrick come in, does that impact his decision? Does that make him want to go somewhere else because he wants to be the guy and he thinks this is infringing on that? I mean, and you don't know all the back behind it. There's thousands of stories and things that we don't know about that are causing these things to happen the way they do.
Wait, you mean to tell me we don't know everything?
Yeah, if you don't know that by now. So, but with Turnage, then we're all kind of leaning like, all right, well, Turnage is going out the door. Well, then he tweets, "Stop with the rumors," or whatever, something along those lines. And so he sends out this tweet in the middle of all this. Well, then you have to start saying, okay, well, are the rumors true? And that's kind of where we're at right now. We don't know what the situation is, and I'm sure Kirby's all over him trying to figure out what the situation is there. But we're basically up in the air on him. So I mean, in your mind, what's the situation? I guess what's the situation there if we don't get Turnage? How do you feel if he's, because it looks pretty, I feel pretty confident he's going to be gone just based on everything we're hearing. But what's your take on that if he ends up not coming in?
I don't think it's the end of the world. I mean, we still have plenty of talent in the defensive backfield, but it's, Tyke is definitely the safety prospect. I guess Turnage was probably a little bit of safety, a little bit of cornerback. I'm not exactly sure. But he never broke the depth chart at Alabama. And it's not like at this point, we're not trying to take Alabama scraps. I mean, we're not. I mean, the Mo Smiths of the world back in 2016, that could work. I mean, we can take a guy from there. We're kind of beyond that point. I mean, Arik is not a scrap. Darian Kendricks is not a scrap. Like we're taking guys that, because of certain circumstances, decided to leave their school, but are still really high level guys. So I don't know if Turnage was more of a luxury or if he was really more or luxury or necessity in the situation. But I mean, we've already, I'm sure you have already seen this, but we've already actually offered because of this whole situation, or I think because of this, we've actually already offered a defensive back from Tulsa who apparently had a pretty good year this past year and has like 2 years of eligibility. So all signs are pointing towards that Turnage is not going to be part of this team this coming year, which I don't know if that, I don't know where he's going to go. He may go back to Alabama. These guys don't have to, and that kind of points towards Chancey. I mean, what is this going to mean for the future of college football? I mean, you got a guy like him who's flirting with everybody, committing to Georgia, but he may still end up being the team that he started from. And what we're going to see is, I mean, we're adopting a form of free agency in college football. We've got the one-time transfer rule. We get the intra-conference transfer in the SEC now. What's going to stop people from? I mean, what's going to keep a player from actually committing and holding up that commitment to a certain team? And so I don't know. It's going to be really interesting dynamic here from 2021. In your face, man.
Well, look at what happened to us. I mean, we went from, I've already said this, but we went from having major gaps in our team and real big question marks when we were like, this was the year we finally had a quarterback that we feel good about. And we're like, well, what are we going to do? And then all of a sudden it's like, well, that's all fixed. And it's just, it's at the turn of a hat. And so now recruiting doesn't stop after you get on campus. Like somehow now this goes beyond into freshmen, sophomores. I mean, if you don't get your way, start calling people. I mean, if you just tell people you're on the market, and so
all you're going to have is put your name in the portal, and then you have. I mean, you are eligible to be contacted. You don't have to reach out to other people if your name is in the portal. And I don't know if there's a certain period that you have to do it, but if your name's there, they can reach out to you, which is just crazy.
Yeah, there are some like period during there and times you have to decide by and all that kind of stuff. But either way, it's nuts. And I mean, and who's to say that there's not going to there's going to be that backdoor communication from players and things like that to figure out what the situation is. But this only, and the thing that, I mean, I'm not mad about it right now because fortunately we're in this position, but this only helps the bigger teams for the most part. I mean, you're going to have some movement in some of those smaller teams, and some guys so like you can think about, like, you can mention Tulsa, for example. You got a guy at Tulsa and maybe he's doing well, and then like a Kentucky maybe could pick him up or something like that and put him into an SEC school, get a bigger name. But why would you want to do that? Nobody's going to, I mean, you're wanting to go to the big leagues. I mean, you're trying to go to a Georgia, to a Clemson, or to an Alabama to win a national championship. Why are you going to uproot your complete life, this life that you've created at wherever you're at, and then move to another place? I mean, you'll have some people like we're talking about with like Tyreek and Devad that are going because of home, where home is, and that kind of thing. And the same thing's happening with Eric here too. I mean, there's a little bit of that going on. He wants to come home. Heard of a lot of him being homesick and things like that. That's a real thing. And so it's just super interesting the direction that this is headed, because I think there's going to be a heavy. It was kind of late this year. Next year, I think it's going to be nuts. I mean, I think it's just going to be all over the place, because then the question is going to be in the middle of the season all the time is going to be,
are they going to quit after a game? Yeah,
right. I mean, because it's just like, I didn't get my way, so I'm done. I mean, quarterbacks are about to start flying. I mean, it's just going to be insane. Like, you can't expect, like in my mind, I'm thinking you've got Gunnar Stockton coming in. What's to get? I mean, I don't think Vandergrift's going to do it, but what's to keep Vandergrift from just bolting? I mean, we're going to have a lot more of that, and so but at the same time, for us, if a guy goes to a different team, whatever the case is, we can just turn around and get another guy. I mean, we have the entire
Well, that's the
landscape.
question: is it going to start to equal itself out? I mean,
Right.
and
It's
it
kind of
may,
a pendulum
but
swing.
But regardless, you're right though. The small programs are going to be the ones that hurt the most because if there's a star player, if they got 5-star players on, well, you talk about Tulsa, but let's take like a little bit step up. Like let's maybe a Cincinnati who had a good team last year. I mean, this coming year or the next 5 years, are they even going to have the possibility of being able to play in a playoff? I'm not a playoff game, a New Year's Six game, because they're going to be losing. Like if they have a star player, are they going to go to Alabama? Are they going to go to Ohio State or Clemson or Georgia? That's what we're going to see some of these small programs, and it's not even just a personnel standpoint. It's like, well, okay, if you're not putting butts in seats, if you don't have the budget for it, these programs are going to fall apart. And I mean, it may be a more of a long-term thing than we're thinking, but eventually it will get to that point where these small programs that can't afford to float their football team are just going to say, "Hey, we're just done with it." But the thing is with football, the only thing that I'll say that's its saving grace is it is the most popular college sport. And I mean, I know basketball is big, but I mean, college football from a number standpoint makes an incredible amount of money. But a lot of people don't understand that all these athletic departments, for the most part, most of them are still not they're not in the black. There's only like 20 to 25 athletic departments that are actually profitable in the entire country. Georgia is one of them because of their football program. But other than that, like think about all the teams like that Georgia has that don't make money or barely make money. I mean, even the basketball program, which is, it's not exactly storied, but like they're one of the few revenue generating sports at the University of Georgia, and they still don't make a ton of money. Football far outweighs them, far outweighs baseball. Gymnastics makes a little bit of money. So anyway, this is all to say, I don't know, man. It's right now we're at somewhat of a turning point, especially in the SEC with this recent passing of this rule, to where these next 5 years, I think, are really going to show us what the future of college football or college sports in general is going to look like.
Well, because this is all sports. Like this is across the board. And so obviously some of this is COVID related, but it's gonna, like we saw with our basketball team just went away. Like our whole team just walked out.
They're gone. Yeah.
The whole team is gone. And so so you're gonna see the same thing happen in basketball. It's just it's all moving to the top. And the only thing that slows it down is that there's only so many seats. There's only so many spots in these bigger teams, but a guy's going to go to a place that he thinks is going to give him more of an opportunity. And because the chance of going to the NFL, you got to have the playing time. But we're going to have so many just one and dones. I mean, it's just going to be crazy what's about to happen really across across the landscape. And so so now you can't really even, in our situation. So if I'm looking at, let's get selfish with this and look at it from a pure dog standpoint.
I love it.
You can't really have a rebuilding year because you just go and get what you don't have. So now because like for us, these past 3 years, we've just been missing that piece. Haven't been able to get that quarterback, because 2 years ago, we should have just been able to turn around and say, which is pretty much what we did with JT. I mean, that's pretty much what we have. We're like, hey man, we ain't got a quarterback. You want to come in here and play? And so that's what that was. Well, now it's very well known, and it's not a question if it can happen or not. Like there's not always that risk of losing a year of eligibility and having to kick can another year down. You're going to play. You're going to turn around and you're going to play. And so that is the sport's just not going to. I mean, it's not going to change the way the sport looks, because I think your same top 10 teams, they're all going to kind of keep showing up because of this situation. Because college football, I mean, it's recruitment is what it is. And so, but now recruiting just changes altogether, because doesn't matter what team they're on. just keep you just keep recruiting them.
I think you said it best earlier. I mean, regardless, you're going to have to be recruiting your own players that are actually on campus and playing in the game. And that's the problem, is that you're working with a group of guys who are, some of them are young as 17 years old, and shoot, some of them are actually as old as 23, or so, or even more than that. But still, I mean, you're working with a very, young group of guys, and let's be honest, some of them can be divas, and that's why you're just like, man, I got to make sure we got this double jeopardy situation where, all right, we got to recruit all these players that are coming in, but at the same time, it's like, well, when we recruit a guy that's going to come in and play at cornerback, like, he's going to piss off the Tyreek Stevensons and the Devon Wilsons, like, they're just going to up and leave. So I don't know. It is going to be. They got to consider so many more factors now. It's incredible.
Well, and I was watching a video, and Pollock was talking about, he was getting asked about the whole situation around with Kendrick and Gilbert coming in, and just kind of asked about the transfer portal altogether. And and he was saying, he was like, people don't realize this, but like, all these kids are homesick. Like, all these kids, like, they miss it. He's like, I was a big old baby. He's like, I was 45 minutes from home and I was homesick. That's what he was talking about.
Yeah.
And he's like, I called my parents, and they said, they were like, Mom, I'm homesick. My coach was mean to me, and my mom told me to suck it up. And he's like, but now they're calling their parents and they're saying, the coach was mean to me, and they're like, all right, pack your bags. Where do you want to go next?
Get out.
I mean, it's just because, why not? Because it wasn't an option back then. And so I do think, and you kind of talked about it, there's going to be a swing back, I think, to a degree.
Yeah.
But you're looking at really your big marquee. Your bigger teams are always going to be able to fill the gaps. Like, that's just going to happen now till the end of time. But I do think there may be some teams in that middle tier that can benefit from this as well, that have those openings that maybe from a smaller team can come and just make a bigger name. There's going to be some kind of recalibration, I think, that happens at some point. But the thing is, there's never going to be a rule change, because this is only helpful for the big teams, and the big teams are what make the money for the sport. I mean, for like the TV deals and things like that. So this only helps the SEC. This only helps Clemson. This only helps Ohio State. This only helps those teams, and those are the teams that make the billions of dollars. And so that's what's going to. I mean, there's no way this doesn't keep that from happening, in my opinion.
Well, just to give you a pro sports comparison, I mean, basically, you're transitioning from, there's certain sports that have a salary cap, and I mean, MLB is one of them that does not have one. So the New York Yankees, the LA Dodgers, these large market teams, for the most part, can easily dominate. They can pay for anybody they want to, and it's a similar situation. I mean, you got the Georgias, the Clemsons, the Ohio States. I mean, hell, USC is a team who has been not so great over the past few years and is in a very weak conference. But at the same time, they got a lot of money that can back that program. And before you know it, I mean, they could just be getting transfers, almost like a Notre Dame recruiting situation. They could be getting transfers from all over the country. But I mean, yes, I mean, from that standpoint, the big programs, the large market programs, are going to be able to dominate the college football atmosphere. And whereas, in the, NFL, or, even a little bit in the NBA, you could have, I mean, not so much in the NBA, because they all, like to whine and, get traded to whatever team they want to go to. But, definitely in the NFL, you see it a little bit more. I mean, Kansas City is not exactly a very large market for the NFL, but I mean, it's a team that had a coach came in, they drafted very well. They had a very good idea what they wanted to do, and were able to scheme enough with Andy Reid to where they became a formidable opponent. And then they were able to actually bring in a little bit more talent and fill in those gaps. And then boom, 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 they're a Super Bowl champs. Whereas, you got the New York Yankees of the world who are just like, oh man, you got this guy who hit 40 home runs last year. He's going to come in and have a 350 batting average. I mean, I know this is oranges, apples to oranges and whatnot, but still, it's like, oh, we'll just pay for him to come. Same thing with the big programs in college football. They're like, they're not. I'm not saying they're paying them, but it's like, why would you want to keep playing for a team that's going to be not going to get you in the league, or maybe you're going to be a 5th rounder or 6th rounder, whereas you can go to Georgia and be a 1st or 2nd rounder and make significantly more money. So I don't know. It's going to be the Wild West, man. It's going to be wild.
Well, and that's, I mean, you just give you just a quick example. You look at Trey McKitty. Trey comes to us, gets traded he gets drafted in the 3rd round. I mean, the guy's about to make great money. I mean, it's just a life-changing decision for him. And so he was
the 3rd rounder.
Right.
You said that and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Trust me, when I saw it come across, I had to check like 3 times. But but that's just an example of what's gonna be happening. When we have gaps, they're just going to get filled. And so we'll be able to have this podcast next year around this time and be able to say, okay, we're starting to see starting to see what's going to be happening. But I mean, it's going to take a couple of years for this to get for people to understand how big of a deal this is and how you even handle it. Because you said earlier, from a logistics standpoint, what in the world are these coaches going to have to do just to try to maintain what they've got? And so apparently one of the things you can do is build an $80 million facility. What a segue.
Hey, that was incredible. Man, we were talking about it before we started, and some of these videos, these guys, I mean, I of course follow some of these big recruits and of course, like some of the guys that are just, on the team right now are just like, this is crazy. They got like this. Have you seen the big, like, I don't know what the hell you call it, but it's like it's almost like an aquarium thing. It's like got water bubbles flowing up the side of the wall, and it's got a big Georgia logo, the crappy new Nike logo or whatever. I'll let it slide, and it's like right beside where the pool is, and they got like 6 TVs right there next to the pool, and then all the locker rooms just look like they're Gucci seats and stuff like that. It's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, they basically said make the most absurd thing possible, and just don't worry about money. And they're like, all right, and that's what they made. And the players are just flipping out. I mean, they are. Yeah. The kids coming in are loving it, but at the same time, that's what you got to do. That's literally what you have to do to be able to compete now in this market. And it's also going to be about what happens after the fact. Once you get the guy on campus, how are you taking care of them? How are you meeting their needs? How are you catering to them and giving them that support? And everybody's been talking about our Georgia support system over these last few weeks. They're really talking about how Kirby's system is taking care of kids and really making them feel good about being on campus, things like that. So, I mean, you have to. This environment's just nuts. I don't know how else to describe it.
It is. I think a lot of people understand that Kirby is, does it all, and that's why I'm like, look, I'm not trying to give anybody a pass for making bonehead decisions in certain situations, which I actually don't. I don't fault him for that a whole lot. I mean, there was definitely a few things over the past few years, especially his first, two or so years. But I really don't like. There's certain times you gotta. He's a high risk, high reward kind of coach, and a lot of people take that as, hey, he's gonna be a guy who's gonna make at least 2 or 3 bonehead decisions in a game, and I just don't see it that same way. But regardless, the way he handles the entire program, the way he manages his roster, the way that he promotes certain things within his team, even just his ideology is just. I mean, he's just off the charts as far as the way that he leads this program. And I mean, at this point, I told my brother the other day, I was like, I just hope we keep him forever. I mean, he's going to turn that corner on the field eventually, but what he does for this program and the way that he leads this team, I really just love it. I love the way he handles himself. And he takes the time to even, I mean, it's no longer about, hey, you know, the mom and pop, do they like the team? Do they like the staff? Do they like the location or whatnot? But regardless, that's not the end all be all. But he harps on that so much, and I mean, he invites the entire family to come. I mean, you've got girlfriends that are showing. I mean, that are in these pictures with these guys, these recruits and stuff. They're taking pictures with like uniforms on and stuff like that. I mean, he just gets it. He just gets it, and that's what I love about like this entire staff. They all get it. It's great.
Well, and Kirby, and this is what he's bred to do. I mean, there's no real fear about him being picked up by some NFL team, somebody like that. Why in the world would he want to do that? I mean, this is exactly what he has the unlimited funds of the University of Georgia to be able to do whatever he wants and bring all this talent in and coach this game. And like you say, I just with what, especially now with this happening and the way we've been able to build this team just over the last month. I mean, what we've been able to do, it's like it's going to happen. And I mean, now, but at the same time, man, you look at our team this year. This has to be it. I mean, we've said that before, but you look at
I'm
what
not
we're
Catholic, but you know,
like I'll do anything at this point. I mean, it changed. The whole dynamic changed since the beginning of the season. The entire dynamic changed, and so this is it. You can't. I mean, there's always going to be another season, but man, we blew the doors off, and if we can maintain this that we have, and get all these names on the field, I mean, Kirby's gunning and saying, I'm taking out all the stops. This is our shot, and really post Clemson, and we're going to talk about this all year. We've got a manageable schedule, and so it's really up to us to make the best of it. And so we got first game of the season. We got a chance to make a name and a name for ourselves, but we've filled in those gaps through this new rule. I mean, Kirby's the one. If you had to look across college football, if somebody was going to make the best out of this rule, it is going to be him. I mean, he is going to be the one that maximizes this. I mean, this is the best news for us possible, just with how he recruits and things like that. We found out today that Bear Alexander, he decommitted from us. He was a 5-star defensive tackle, right?
Yeah, he's a DT. I mean, he's not a. I mean, we want him back. That's the best way to put it. But he still has this on his list. He went on a visit to Texas A&M. He's from Texas, and he went on a visit to TAMU. And I mean, you know, you can go on any kind of visit, and they're going to make you feel like you're the only player in the world, you know, and you can get really wide-eyed and get excited and emotional about it. And, you know, I get that. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, again, you're considering the age of these guys. I mean, they're, you know, 16, 17, 18 years old in these situations. So, but anyway, I got a feeling there might be a chance that we reel him back in. He's actually got some links to Georgia. I think he's got family from here. I think he may actually originally be from Georgia, but he's definitely a guy that we want to get back on our commitment list. But he's having fun, man. I get that. I mean, these guys they're coming out of the pandemic right now. They can actually go on visits. I mean, it's just very easy for me to see them going on a visit like this and just saying, oh, well, I've only ever seen Athens. Like, not that College Station is in any way, shape, or form comparable to Athens, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you can go and get wide-eyed anywhere you go. They're going to treat you like you're, you know, hot stuff. Anyway.
Well, this just comes back to the point of what you said earlier. You're always recruiting. You got to recruit the guys that you have, and you can expect this. Like you say, they're now getting to be catered to at a level that they haven't been able to before, and so you definitely can't knock a guy. But you're exactly right. Kirby's got to use some of his recruitment fairy dust and make that
the magic powder.
Yeah. So anyway, man, I think we've covered a lot of ground here, but anyway, by the time we record again, Lord knows what will have happened. I mean, this now the landscape is so volatile. I'm trying to think of a good way to describe it. It's going to be crazy.
That's probably a perfect word. Honestly, it is very volatile.
So,
I put it this way. I mean, we're still in good shape, period. But, and Kirby, obviously you saw last year, we fell off a little bit because, I mean, Kirby's the guy who needs to be in front of recruits and his staff too. I mean, we need these guys on campus, and we got so much momentum in going into the weekend. And I told you, we were thinking about recording last week, and I was like, let's wait until this week is over. You know, maybe we'll get a commit. Little did I know that we actually got a decommitment, but I think we actually, I've got a feeling we probably got 2 or 3 silent commits over the week. But we did have that. Just real quick, small tidbit. There's a running back from Mississippi. We've talked about him before, Branson Robertson. He looks like the next Nick Chubb type guy. I'm not saying he's next Nick Chubb. He's type guy. But anyway, he's a stud. He was here over the weekend. He quote said he didn't want to leave. So anyway, I think we're still in a good spot. Let's just see if we can reel old Big Bear back in and go from there. But yeah, man, we got a full summer to kind of mold these things over. We'll see when the next time. Basically, if there's any kind of big recruiting news or big news, we'll do another one. Otherwise, we'll probably shoot towards the end of July. I would expect. I'm gonna have a baby around that time, so I don't.
There's gonna be a young little Briner running around.
Yeah, I don't know what all it's gonna look like. So we'll see when we can get the next one to you.
There we go. All right, man. Well, as always, this has been fun. It's been good for my heart to see you again.
Yes.
And hello. So and hopefully you're seeing this on YouTube. So we're just gonna see what happens.
Got to do a little bit of editing, but we'll get it there.
All right, man. Good to see you.
All right, bro. Go Dogs. We got to do a sign off, man.
Yeah, sorry, man. Hey, we don't do this as often anymore. So anyway,
a little rusty.
Dogs on top.
See you later.